This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
They need to cut $4 billion a day, every day from now until September.
The vast majority of Americans and Mainers don't want to see boys in girls' sports.
This digitalization of childhood is occurring at warp speed.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. We start by going right into the White House. The entire cabinet around President Trump for the first time this afternoon. The topic, government cash going out the door.
When you hear the names and the places where this money's going, it's a disgrace.
At the center of the room, Elon Musk, tasked with making the cuts.
If we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done.
Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick made a bold goal.
We are going to balance this budget and we are going to pay off the debt under President Trump.
It is a tall stack. Fox News' Peter Ducey.
To reach their goal of about $100 trillion in cuts, they need to cut $4 billion a day, every day from now until September. He says they're going to do it.
Across the street, a major court case went before the U.S. Supreme Court today on reverse discrimination. A woman said she was fired because she was not a lesbian. Marlene Ames was passed over for promotion after 30 years on the job at the Ohio Department of Youth Services. Then her job and the job she was going for were both given to people who were gay. She had this to say about proceedings before the justices today.
I feel confident on how it went today.
Ames suing based on her sexual orientation as a straight woman. Her lawyer, Edward Gilbert, says it's a tough fight because she needs to prove a pattern of historical discrimination in the Ohio government.
I knew the law was against us. Took the case anyway.
Lower courts ruled against her, and that's when Ames got the University of Virginia Law School's litigation clinic involved.
The Civil Rights Act protects all of us, and it protects all of us equally. And to have judges put additional rules and burdens on people just isn't fair.
If the high court rules you don't need to find patterns in the workplace to defend your own case, it could change nationwide how courts rule on discrimination. Their decision is expected in June. The governor of Maine has started a massive nationwide fundraising campaign to take President Trump to court over biological boys in girls' sports. This after a public spat with the president last week.
I thought that Governor Mills has finally met her match, and she's playing a game of chicken with President Trump. That doesn't seem like a great call to me.
Maine State Representative Laurel Libby.
Hopefully Governor Mills is going to give. That's the answer in the end. The vast majority of Americans and Mainers don't want to see boys in girls' sports. We have a lot at risk here in our state. $250 million in federal funding. Governor Mills has got to let go of this extreme policy.
A recent New York Times poll shows 94% of Republicans and 67% of Democrats do not support biological boys in girls' sports. Moving testimony today during a U.S. Senate hearing on the fentanyl crisis. University of Texas football player Jake Ellinger died after taking a single pill, which he didn't know was laced with the powerful synthetic opioid. His mother told lawmakers her son's death was no accident.
He was killed, literally poisoned to death. Our country is at war and we're losing the war, as evidenced by fentanyl becoming the #1 killer in the United States for ages 18 to 45. It impacts all races, religions, socioeconomic statuses, and political affiliations.
More than 100 Americans die from fentanyl overdoses every day. The Senate Judiciary Committee is weighing legislation that would permanently classify fentanyl as a Schedule I drug. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to visit the White House on Friday to sign a long sought-after minerals deal that will tie the countries together for years to come. Pennsylvania Congressman Glenn Thompson hopes the deal will mark the beginning of the end of the Russia-Ukraine war.
Donald Trump's a deal maker. He's built his career on that. He's demonstrated as President of the United States his ability to do that. So I am hopeful and prayerful that occurs.
There's a new federal plan to bring down spiraling egg prices.
The bird flu virus first hit poultry farms during the Biden administration, and those farmers were forced to slaughter most or all of their birds due to exposure to the virus.
Fox correspondent Mike Manuel. The plan includes investing $1 billion to fight bird bird flu, importing some eggs, and rolling back some regulations covering egg producers. And new research out today shows 40% of toddlers now own a tablet and spend 2.5 hours a day on it.
Noah was about 2.5, 3 or so when we introduced iPads. Michael was about 2.5, 3 years old.
Jim Steyer is the owner of Common Sense Media, which did the study.
I was shocked because it's just transforming childhood. It's just transforming the reality of being a little child, but also being a parent of a little child. And the consequences are extraordinary on many levels.
He says kids under 8 average 4 hours of screen time daily.
We are just blowing through all the old standards of digital usage. This digitalization of childhood is occurring at warp speed.
Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, New York prison strikes are growing. More on the You're Hired initiative and the protection of the northern border after weather with Kevin Williams.
Cloudy tonight, occasional rain and wet snow. There can be some small accumulations across some of the higher elevations of the Twin Tiers. Low temps, generally 30s. On Thursday, a rain-snow mix early in parts of south-central New York, otherwise some showers. Temperatures climb into the 40s, then drop again in the afternoon. Colder Friday, sun, clouds, and lake flurries with high temperatures in the 30s to near 40.
Thank you, Kevin. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Day 3 of mediations continue in the New York State prison workers strike, but the numbers on the strike lines keep growing. Kenny Varon is a retired corrections officer.
The fight's going strong for everybody because they haven't received what they need to survive in a jail setting.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul says she has yet to hear the issues directly from the officers on strike.
We want to find out what the issue is because the individuals who've walked out in an unsanctioned strike, unapproved by the union, have yet to tell us the issues.
Varon says there's a staffing crisis and triple shifts have to stop.
Officers want to be safe and inmates want to be safe. Not just officers. Everybody needs to be safe in a facility. Husbands, wives, daughters, the whole 9 yards.
Hochul says anyone participating is considered AWOL, absent without leave, and no longer eligible for health care coverage. We mentioned yesterday Kathy Hochul's trying to recruit those federal workers Donald Trump is laying off. She calls it her You're Hired initiative. Republican Assemblyman Angelo Morinello says cutting government size is a model Hochul should be following.
If she's referring to jobs within the government, we're bloated already. If it's just general jobs, we have many unemployed within the state.
He says the governor's proposal smacks of politics.
They're going to waive civil service requirements. They're going to give extra benefits. Why not give them to our citizens, those that have been here, those that have suffered through the high taxes? So I think this is just another gimmick.
New York has the highest population loss of any state in the country, going back more than a decade. Morinello says it's because people cannot afford to live in the Empire State anymore. Border Czar Tom Homan is meeting today with New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney about security concerns along the northern border.
90% of the people on the terror watch list have come across the northern border.
The Republican representative blames those security lapses on Albany lawmakers. Saving veterans cash. The Greece, New York School District is trying something new. They're offering tax breaks to veterans. The district says the exemption is designed to honor the services of vets in that Rochester suburb. Army veteran and Greece resident Tim Smith is grateful.
Most of us are like senior citizens. For people that were in World War II, it's all combat vets. People that were in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, the Middle East, and other foreign lands. Veterans that left their homes, their families, and risked their life for our country. So this is it'll help their incomes, that's for sure.
The new tax exemption for veterans takes effect in the 2026-2027 school year. And Pennsylvania may change its state song to this.
Let me tell you about the heartland, that's my Pennsylvania home.
Democratic Senator Judith Swank wanting to change the current song Pennsylvania to My Pennsylvania Home by Dave Klein, saying he's a composer born and raised in the Keystone State.
I'll always remember the snowflakes and the spring days in the heartland of my Pennsylvania home.
It's got a kick to it. Next at 5, Real Answers with Chris Anderson. Many parents feel intimidated to talk about sex with their children and teenagers, but Anderson says the talk, and lots of them, is essential for your family's well-being. Let's listen in.
I guess one of the tough questions is when.
It really is very situationally dependent and circumstantial, quite honestly, because there's going to be some children that either through no fault of their own or maybe through bad choices find themselves in a situation where they are having to have discussions about sexuality. And one particular situation that might come up is if you are the parent of a teen and or a preteen or even younger, unfortunately, where let's say you find evidence in your child's room or somewhere else that your child is sexually active or has been or is being exposed to, let's say, pornography. What do you do at that point? It really depends on what the situation is, how you approach it, and the age of the child, whether you're talking about a son or a daughter. One big thing to remember is don't be afraid to address the topic. Do it directly. And of course, if you need some assistance in doing that, there's great books on the subject. Focus on the Family has good books on the subject, or speak to a professional, mental health counselor. Get some help. Don't be afraid, though. That fear is what keeps many parents from just really addressing this head on. You may or may not make mistakes doing so, but that's okay. Don't let that discourage you from doing what you need to do, which is to have very frank and forward conversations with your children.
Probably can't address this completely without talking about electronics, because so much of that wrong information and inappropriate information comes via that route.
That phone or whatever screen your child is using, please know what is on there. Please know where they're going. It's not the school's responsibility to do that. It's yours as the parent. Okay, ultimately, you are the parent. You are your child's greatest influence. You need to know where they're going. Something else too, Mark, when you're having conversations with your teens, be direct, talk about it, use proper terminology, avoid using today's vernacular, because that is just a lot of times that is laced with humor and laced with inappropriate undertones as well. Be very clear, very specific on why inappropriate sexual activity is unhealthy, literally at every level, physical, spiritual, emotional health, why it's going to have detrimental impacts on them.
That's Real Answers with Chris Anderson and our own Mark Webster. You can subscribe, listen to, and share this feature and all of Family Life's original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at familylife.org. Time next for tonight's market report, brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Wall Street is closing mixed. At the final bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 188 points to 43,433. The S&P 500 gained a point to 59.56, and the Nasdaq rose 49 points to 19.75. Faithward Advisors is a Christian financial planning firm online at faithwardadvisors.com.
Is there such thing as a saving gene that makes a person put something aside for a rainy day? Hi, I'm Rob West with your Faith and Finance Minute. Okay, maybe saving isn't hereditary. In fact, most savers will probably tell you it's a habit they had to learn, and maybe it took a few tries, but they didn't quit. The next time you're at work, think about why you're working, and it's probably not so you can spend frivolously. It's easier to kick a bad habit like overspending if you replace it with a good habit like saving. Every payday, put something in savings. Then visit your account online every day for encouragement. Getting into the saving habit might be hard at first, but keep at it. Soon, it'll seem like it's part of your DNA. Connect with a certified Kingdom advisor who's been trained to deliver financial advice that aligns with your Christian values by visiting our website, faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, the Marine veteran that just broke a Guinness World Record and didn't know it. His powerful story after weather with Kevin Williams.
The call for tonight, it'll turn out cloudy. Rain and snow spreading north and east tonight, and then going on to showers and flurries tomorrow. There can be some small accumulations across some of the higher elevations of the Twin Tiers. Mostly, though, little to no accumulation for most. Low temps tonight, 30s. High temps tomorrow, 40s, but falling temperatures in the afternoon in western New York and northwest Pennsylvania. Brisk and colder with flurries tomorrow night and on Friday. Some mixed sun as well. Friday high temperatures in the 30s. Another system will do the same. Friday night into Saturday, cold air and some lake flakes will follow.
All right, we'll take it. Thank you, Kevin. Finally, at 5, pushing the limits. Marine veteran Barrington Scott just broke the Guinness World Record for scuba diving just off the coast of all 7 continents, some 30,000 miles, in record speed. The only thing is, he didn't know it.
Dive number 3, Alexandria, Egypt. Let's go, baby!
Scott spent his early years in Bronx, New York, in foster care until he was adopted out at 12 years old.
I was always that kid trying new things. I think it was the openness to eliminate that fear of trying new things.
This morning, he learned he'd broken the world record on live TV.
You have officially set a new Guinness World Records title for the fastest time to scuba dive in all 7 continents, achieving an incredible mark of 19 days, 19 hours, and 40 minutes.
What?
Scott's story, a reminder that no matter where you've been or what you've been through, God is not done with you yet. And that's the world that we live in for Wednesday, the 26th of February. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.